Farrah Fawcett was a pop culture icon of beauty and glamour. Stay tuned for some little-known and shocking facts about her while you enjoy rare photos of the Hollywood star. We were once led to believe she had a perfect life, always smiling and radiant. But if true happiness means simply having enough to get by each day, then Fawcett might have gladly traded places with you, because on her deathbed, she was surrounded by a drug-addicted son in handcuffs, an abusive ex-husband, and an obsessive lover who had long lost control. Farrah Fawcett was born on February 2, 1947, in Texas, right in the heart of an America in transition after the war. From the moment she entered the world, her name stood out. Farrah, not a saint's name, not a family name, but a creation of her mother, a woman with a refined sense of beauty. She once said the name sounded like sunlight glinting off metal. During her high school years, Farrah quickly became the center of attention. She wasn't just beautiful, she glowed in a way that made people stop and stare. When the title of Most Beautiful Student was announced each year, everyone already knew who would win. She held that title 4 years in a row, a record no one at the small Corpus Christi school had ever achieved. Yet, what made her beloved wasn't only her looks, but her warmth, humble, kind, and always smiling. But Farrah was more than a pretty face. When she entered the University of Texas, she chose microbiology, a decision that surprised her friends. "She's that gorgeous, and she's studying bacteria," they joked. But Farrah was serious. She loved science until she realized her true passion didn't lie under a microscope. She switched to sculpture, where her hands could shape forms that carried a soul. Under the guidance of an art professor, she began to see the world differently. Every face was a potential sculpture, every contour a story waiting to be told. Then one day, destiny knocked in the most unexpected way. A campus photographer took some portraits of Farrah for an art exhibit. Somehow those photos found their way into the hands of modeling agencies in Hollywood. Among hundreds of other faces, one man, David Mirisch, paused longer than the rest. Later, he would say, "I knew instantly she was a star. She didn't need to say a word." Mirisch kept writing and calling, urging Farrah to come to Los Angeles. At first, she refused. Texas was peaceful while Hollywood felt distant and dangerous. But her parents, who believed in her dreams, told her, "Go. If you fail, Texas will still be here." So in 1968, with one suitcase and a heart full of fragile hope, Farrah Fawcett boarded a plane to Los Angeles, unaware that this journey would not only change her life forever, but also leave a mark on American pop culture for decades to come. She stayed at the Hollywood Studio Club, a haven that had launched the careers of countless young actresses before her. By day, she went to auditions. By night, she called her mother, saying, "Everyone here is beautiful, but I think I can make it." Not long after, Screen Gem Studios spotted her among hundreds of hopefuls. They signed her immediately. Farrah was only 21. Soon she began appearing on television, selling everything from toothpaste to mattresses. That radiant smile, that golden hair, they slowly became symbols of 1970 seconds America. In those early uncertain days of her career, a chance meeting would go on to shape much of her personal life. Someone arranged a casual coffee between Farrah and Lee Majors, a rising actor often called the Blonde Elvis. They talked, laughed, and by the end of that meeting, Majors knew he wasn't going to let her go. Their romance blossomed quickly. Majors was already a household name thanks to the $6 Million Man, while Farrah was still the wide-eyed newcomer, innocent but magnetic. It was Majors who encouraged her to audition for Myra Breckinridge, a daring film adaptation of Gore Vidal's controversial novel. He thought it would be a breakthrough. Instead, it turned into Farrah's first professional misstep. On set, the legendary Mae West, another blonde, demanded that the director dye Farrah's hair brown so she wouldn't steal the spotlight. Then Raquel Welch, the brunette lead, insisted they change it back to blonde. The young actress found herself trapped between Hollywood egos far larger than life. And in the end, the movie became a box office disaster. Despite that misjudged advice, and despite the chaos it brought, Farrah still chose to marry Majors. She even took his last name, becoming Farrah Fawcett Majors. But the troubles in her career were far from over. By 1976, Farrah's beauty had become so striking that a poster company invited her to do a swimsuit photo shoot. She arrived on set planning to do her own hair and makeup, but quickly realized something ironic: no one had brought a mirror. Farrah had to get ready entirely by feel, relying on instinct to arrange her golden waves and flash her natural, unforced smile at the camera. 40 shots were taken that day. She kept only 6, and one of them, the now iconic image of Farrah in a red swimsuit, would make history. That single poster ended up hanging in millions of dorm rooms across America, becoming a symbol of the 1,970 seconds. It wasn't just a picture of a beautiful woman, it was the image of confidence, independence, and freedom. Farrah, with her sunlit hair and effortless smile, embodied that spirit perfectly. Fame, however, often comes from the most unexpected turns. One day, while playing tennis with her husband Lee Majors, Farrah caught the attention of another player, actor Michael York. York was then working on the sci-fi film Logan's Run and introduced her to the production team. In the film's futuristic world, where youth and pleasure were worshipped, Farrah appeared like a living icon. Her short, feathered shag haircut was created specifically for the role, but no one could have predicted that it would ignite a cultural phenomenon copied by millions of women around the world. While Farrah was fully immersed in Logan's Run, she had no idea that an even greater opportunity was waiting just around the corner. During those weekend tennis matches, she and Majors often played doubles with a close friend, television producer Aaron Spelling. After seeing Farrah in Logan's Run, Spelling became convinced she was the missing piece for his upcoming project, Charlie's Angels. The show featured 3 lead actresses, Farrah Fawcett, Kate Jackson, and Jaclyn Smith, as brilliant, glamorous private detectives. Among them, Farrah quickly became America's favorite angel. But even more famous than her character was her hair that legendary look the world came to know by 3 names: the Farrah Flip, and the Farrah hair. In the first season of Charlie's Angels, Farrah Fawcett won the People's Choice Award for Favorite Performer in a new television program, a victory that proved her appeal went far beyond the screen. In an interview, Fawcett joked, "When the show was ranked 3rd, I thought it was because of our acting, but when it hit number 1, I realized it was probably because none of us were wearing bras." That playful remark perfectly captured the spirit of Charlie's Angels: bold, provocative, and impossible to forget. While the public adored the 3 angels, critics were far less kind. They coined the term jiggle television, a snide label mocking shows that relied on women's looks rather than substance. But audiences didn't care. They tuned in by the millions, turning Charlie's Angels into a global sensation and catapulting Farrah Fawcett into instant superstardom. Behind the glamour, however, lay a bitter truth. She earned only half as much as her co-star Kate Jackson. Even as Farrah's image appeared everywhere on magazine covers, coffee mugs, and t-shirts, she received just 2% of the enormous merchandising profits. 3:35 p.m., 24 divided by 10, divided by 2,025. Her red swimsuit poster became the defining image of the 1,970 seconds, selling millions of copies and generating more revenue than her entire salary from the show. Yet despite her fame, she was treated like a product. Fawcett knew her true worth far exceeded the $10,000 per episode ABC was paying her, so she pushed back. Fawcett demanded $75,000 per episode and a 10% share of merchandise profits. But before negotiations reached any conclusion, she began to lose interest in Charlie's Angels. She wanted to be seen as a serious actress, not just a sex symbol. When ABC noticed she was turning down every new project, they realized she was planning her escape. The problem was, her contract still bound her. Fawcett argued that she had started filming before officially signing, which meant she had the right to walk away. ABC disagreed, and so a fierce legal battle began. Between the 2 seasons of Charlie's Angels, negotiations dragged on for weeks in a suffocating atmosphere. While lawyers on both sides argued endlessly, Fawcett quietly searched for new opportunities in film. She was on the verge of landing the lead role in Foul Play, a romantic comedy opposite funny man Chevy Chase, when everything collapsed. ABC threatened to sue any studio daring to hire her. Terrified, the producers backed out immediately and handed the part to Goldie Hawn instead. The loss devastated Fawcett. Her dream of breaking into film, so close she could almost touch it, slipped through her fingers. In the end, to free herself from the network's stranglehold, she had no choice but to return to the negotiation table and accept even harsher terms. Eventually, she secured the lead role in Somebody Killed Her Husband, starring opposite Jeff Bridges. Expectations were sky high, and the film sold for over $1 million before its release. Many believed it would mark the triumphant beginning of the golden-haired angel's movie career. But when it premiered, the film bombed spectacularly. Critics mocked it mercilessly. One headline even sneered, "Somebody killed her career." It was not the kind of debut Fawcett had imagined for her post-Charlie's Angels era, and tragically, the downfall was only just beginning. After leaving Charlie's Angels, Farrah longed to be recognized not just for her golden hair or dazzling smile, but for her true talent as an actress. So, in 1979, she took a gamble on Sunburn, a film she hoped would mark a serious turning point in her career. But instead of a rebirth, it became a painful fall. Sunburn was a box office disaster, and the name Farrah Fawcett suddenly became synonymous with a fading star. Refusing to give up, Fawcett moved on to her next project, Saturn III, alongside Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas. Thanks to her fame from Charlie's Angels and the iconic red swimsuit poster, she was billed as the top star, but that fame came at a steep price. The producers forced her to perform a nude scene, something that left her embarrassed and powerless. The tension only worsened when the director was abruptly fired mid-production. Douglas, known for his enormous ego, took over directing duties himself, turning the set into a pressure cooker of chaos. In one disturbing scene, he smeared dirt on Farrah's body for realism, insisting it was necessary for art. For Fawcett, it was one of the most humiliating experiences of her entire career. But the pain didn't end there. When Saturn III hit theaters, critics tore it apart. They called her performance shallow, her character soulless, and the film itself a cosmic disaster. Fawcett received a Razzie nomination for Worst Actress, a brutal blow for someone who had once been television's golden girl. She was even honored with 2 Stinker Award nominations, as if Hollywood itself were conspiring to push her aside. Meanwhile, the marriage that once seemed picture-perfect with Lee Majors was unraveling. The days she missed work for health reasons were, in truth, days when she simply couldn't bear the weight of her collapsing personal life. Finally, in 1982, the couple divorced, closing one of the most painful chapters of Farrah Fawcett's life. After losing both her career and her marriage, Fawcett tried to reinvent herself with a supporting role in The Cannonball Run, an action comedy packed with Hollywood's biggest stars. Ironically, instead of helping her shed the sex symbol label, the film dragged her right back into the image she was desperate to escape. Once again, she was nominated for a Razzie Award, and it seemed all of Hollywood had decided that Farrah Fawcett was only good for being beautiful. But she refused to let her past define her. When the film industry turned its back, she returned to where it all began: television. In 1981, Murder in Texas marked a cautious but promising comeback. Audiences welcomed it warmly, and for the first time in years, people stopped mocking her. They began to see not just a pretty face, but a woman determined to prove her worth. Then, in 1984, she took on the lead role in The Burning Bed, a made-for-TV movie based on the true story of a woman who, after enduring years of domestic abuse, set fire to the bed while her husband was still in it. The raw emotional intensity of her performance marked a daring and complete transformation from the light, glamorous roles of her past. Critics and audiences alike were stunned. One reviewer called it one of the greatest television films ever made. Fawcett's haunting portrayal earned her a Primetime Emmy nomination, solidifying her place as a serious actress at last. It was a monumental step forward in her career. Yet behind that radiant smile, the one that had once lit up every screen, were deep emotional cracks. Those same wounds allowed her to channel such devastating authenticity into her roles as broken, resilient women. Because in real life, Farrah herself had endured years of pain and turmoil in her relationship with actor Ryan O'Neal. Their on and off love story spanned nearly 2 decades, from 1979 to 1997, a film in itself, full of breakups and reconciliations. Together, they had a son, Redmond James O'Neal, born in 1985, the product of love, but also the chain that bound them to their mutual suffering. By then, Farrah was at the height of her fame, while O'Neal was losing himself in his own. She discovered he was having an affair with model Leslie Ann Stephenson. And instead of remorse, he coldly justified it by saying Stephenson was like a daughter to him. When confronted, O'Neal cruelly blamed the woman who had loved him with all her heart, claiming Fawcett's body had lost its appeal with age. For someone once hailed as the embodiment of beauty, those words were a deep, cutting wound. The relationship collapsed, but the pain it left behind became fuel for her most powerful performances, women who had fallen but refused to stay down. Despite the heartbreak, Fawcett found a new artistic identity in portraying real women, survivors, fighters, truth-tellers. She had proven she was no longer just the blonde angel, but a serious, fearless actress. And then she did something no one expected. She agreed to pose for Hugh Hefner's men's magazine. At 50, Farrah Fawcett wanted to prove that age could never suffocate a woman's allure. In a daring photo shoot accompanied by an experimental art video, she used her own body as a paintbrush, tracing free, expressive strokes across a canvas, part artistic statement, part declaration of a woman's right to live authentically. But the world has never been kind to women who dare to be different. When she appeared on the David Letterman show to promote the project, audiences barely recognized the radiant star they once adored. Fawcett walked onto the stage looking uneasy, her speech halting and disjointed. Though her words made sense, her mannerisms seemed off, sparking rumors that she was under the influence of drugs. The tabloids pounced, tearing her image apart. The woman who had once captivated America was now being mocked on live television. Fawcett publicly denied the accusations, but no one truly knew what was happening inside her. At the time, she was in a relationship with Canadian director James Orr. The two had worked together on Disney's Man of the House, which seemed to mark a new beginning, both professionally and romantically. But tragedy struck again when Orr was arrested for assaulting Fawcett. Even after that devastating ordeal, she kept acting. Robert Duvall, who admired her courage and talent, invited her to join the cast of The Apostle. He gave her a choice, the role of the wife or of Tuzi. Farrah changed her mind twice before ultimately accepting the wife's role, a decision that earned her an Independent Spirit Award nomination. For the first time in years, Farrah Fawcett was remembered not for her beauty, but for her craft. Following that success, she began seeking peace with her past. She reconnected with Greg Lott, her college sweetheart from Texas, the man who had loved her long before the fame and chaos. They rekindled their relationship in secret, keeping it hidden from the media glare. But fate wasn't finished testing her. When her infamous ex-lover Ryan O'Neal was diagnosed with leukemia, Fawcett returned to his side. O'Neal eventually recovered, but their relationship would never find peace. In 2006, Farrah Fawcett was diagnosed with cancer. The entire nation watched as she faced the battle of her life. Ryan O'Neal stayed by her side, caring for her through rounds of treatment, but he also controlled nearly every aspect of her life, even forbidding her from seeing Greg Lott, her first love. Lott later revealed that Farrah had wanted to spend her final days at her beachside home, surrounded only by wind and sunlight, but O'Neal wouldn't allow it. On June 25, 2009, Farrah Fawcett took her final breath. On paper, Ryan O'Neal was by her side, but in her heart, that place belonged to someone else. Her will said it all. Most of her estate went to her son Redmond and to her family, and she left $100,000 to Greg Lott. Ryan O'Neal's name was nowhere to be found. After her death, O'Neal kept the Andy Warhol portrait of Farrah, worth millions, and went to court to claim it as his own. But the public saw it for what it was, the final symbol of control he wanted to exert over the woman who was finally free. According to her close friend Craig Nevius, Farrah once said she didn't want to become a tourist attraction after she died. She wanted to be cremated, her ashes scattered into the sea. That wish was never granted. Instead, she was buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, the resting place of many Hollywood legends. Then, in 2023, Ryan O'Neal passed away. He was buried right beside her, his name carved onto Farrah Fawcett's headstone. To some, it seemed like a symbol of eternal love. But to those who truly understood Farrah, it was the final act of possession. Her story from a sweet Texas girl to a wounded Hollywood icon ended in silence. Yet her image lives on, not just on the screen, but in the hearts of those who believe that a woman can be both strong and fragile, and that no matter what, she deserves to be loved truly and freely.